Hello my friends, this is 𝗂𝗶𝘁𝗵 here again, and in today's video we're going to talk about some mistakes you should avoid on your way to Operations Level 30 in Star Trek Fleet Command. Hello my friends. Live long and prosper. Okay, so the very first mistake that I made, and I don't want you to make whenever you're playing this game, is do not rush your operations level at all. That's why we're talking about Operations 30, is that's where I currently am on this server, and now I'm not super weak when it comes to this. This is a newer server. My power, I'm 81 on the server right now. So it's not like I'm super weak overall. But for my operations level, other people on my server that are at my operations level are laughing at me and going, dude, what are you doing? You don't belong here. And that's true. I don't. I rushed. When I first got Ops 24 was probably the last place that I was good where I was at. And then I went, wait a minute, if I go ahead and jump up to Ops 25, then I can go ahead and start running my stuff for territories. That's awesome. We can do that. And then I was like, oh, at Ops 26, I can go ahead and start building my horizon, which is an awesome thing to do. And oh, if I go ahead and get to Ops 28, I can start working on my borders. Ops 30, I can get my ACC up so I can do that. Stop looking at the stuff that's down the road. Focus on the now. You'll get to all that stuff. All this stuff would be great. But if you focus on what you have now, make sure that your officers are at a higher level, that your research is good, that your buildings are good, and your ships are where they need to be, because your operations level is what determines who can hit you, who you can hit, and what your rankings are, what your bracket is when it comes to your leaderboards. So you really don't want to be competing with these guys who have been there, who have been whaling, whatever. You want to make sure that you are the biggest fish in your little pond. The second biggest tip I would give you is to make sure that you get into an active alliance. If you're in an alliance that's not very active at all, or doesn't have very many members, or has an admiral that doesn't play anymore and no commodores, get out of that alliance, go find you a better one, grab some of the people in your current one, go there. You want to make sure that you are building, or at least a part of, a very active alliance. Why? Because those are the people that you're going to interact with every day. They're the people who make the game fun. They're the people that are going to be on your team, that you run armadas with, that you're working on territories with, that you can teach about the game and will teach you things. I've learned more from my alliance mates than anyone else on this server, and I do a lot of time studying. That's why I work on this YouTube channel. I also work on this to give back to my alliance mates who have helped me tremendously, as well as the other people on our server. So make sure that you're in an active alliance. That way you can get higher on the alliance leaderboards. That way when events come around that are alliance milestones, you're actually reaching those. They might seem unattainable to you, and if so, get out of that alliance, go find another one. And then of course, the fact that you can get your speed ups up at the level that we're at, we're getting 16 speed ups. And I'll say that most times of the day, I've played this game pretty much at any time in a 24-hour cycle, just depending on the day, because my sleep schedule has been all jacked up for different reasons. I have a young child, she'll wake me up and I'll be like, fine, I'm awake, let me see what's going on. Probably within, on the high side, 15 minutes, but on the low side, it's like 5 minutes. I'll get all 16 of these help requests done. And you gotta remember, help request is 1% or 1 minute, whichever one is greater. It's pretty fantastic. If you're not in an active alliance, go get in one. Hopefully a lot of you that are closer to my operations level have been playing this game for a while. I know there's a lot of people that are on other servers that are way higher than I am, way more advanced at this game than me, that stop by on my channel and leave some great comments. Thank you guys so much for those. They help a lot for not just me, not just my alliance even, but the whole server, everybody I talk to. So when you do those, if you see me making some sort of just bogus claim or something that's super inaccurate, please leave it down below. I really appreciate when you do that. It helps me make sure I'm not spreading disinformation, misinformation all across our gaming community here. Hey, if you liked the video, do me a quick favor, set that phaser on stun, target the like button, and fire! Crews are what's super important. That's what I was trying to get to. So, if you look here, I'm just using the borders as an example. What a lot of people do, especially early game, is they just go, bam, strength, this guy's the highest, go, 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 go. They just keep clicking away until they get all their strongest officers up here, because this number is super high, and they're like, I'm good. You're not good. This is a horrible team. This team is not going to help me in any way reach any of the things that I'm trying to do. This team is bad for everything, so pull it off. One of the first things you need to make sure that you know how to do in this game is build a team, build a good crew for whatever you're doing. And the Star Trek Fleet Command Officer tool, I'm not going to show you how to use that. There's all sorts of stuff around here. It'll be in the link again. This is the second video probably in a row that I've linked to that because it's such a great tool. It will help you figure out not just what the best crews are for certain situations, be that armadas or eclipse or even just daily mission bosses and whatever you do. It's not great for just that, but it's good for you to go plug in what your ranks and your levels are for your officers so that you can make sure that you are using the best team for what you currently have. A lot of people will look at my channel and go, man, you don't have that many officers, or I can't believe that officer is not higher. And it's like, what you got to make sure that you are building your core team, which is going to come a lot of times from commons and uncommons are going to be your core team for a long time, and then you can worry about the rest of that. Somebody commented in one of the previous videos that I made about how it doesn't really matter all these shiny officers that you have. You only really need like 2 or 3 core groups that can be built out of your commons and uncommons, and you can be pretty successful in this game. That's true. You're going to make sure that you know how to build a good crew. So early game especially, we're talking about crews, but crews are consisted of officers. So how do you get your officers? You either get them through your recruit tokens, or you get them through a cool little trick that I learned from 𝗂𝗵𝘁𝗵𝘁's channel. It's a tip that you might not know yet if you're early game, but you want to come in here to your standard recruit tokens. It takes 100 of these real quick down here to do a 5 chest pool. If you don't have any like I have right now, I have 0 of these recruit tokens. As long as you have 400 Latinum, you can go ahead and click on here, convert the Latinum to those tokens, go ahead and make a draw real quick. This way you can pad your officers early in the game and go ahead and start building those commons and uncommons to get that crew. Now you want to make sure that you are also saving your officer experience, your Latinum, your recruit tokens, your speed ups for whenever there are heroic events and single leaderboards in your dailies tab. Not just your events, but your heroic events. Those are going to give you a lot more for your whatever you're using, whether it's your tokens or whatever. Those are going to give you more recruit tokens and more Latinum pretty much every time. I haven't really seen a heroic one that doesn't give you that back. Those are going to be, if you scroll all the way down towards the end, daily events. These are super important to make sure that you are hoarding everything for when one of those recruit or the heroic or the single leaderboards roll around, and then throwing everything that you have at it, or most of what you have out there. If you have enough that you can get to the top of the leaderboard and then stop so that you're ready for the next one, that's a good idea. And then keep an eye on it towards the end of it. If it's a heroic event, then it's usually just a milestone. You just go ahead and throw it out there until you get the top, and then you wait, and then you're ahead for the next time. You want to make sure you do that. Those are on a recurring calendar. Go ahead and link the calendar down below for when those roll around so that you know how long you're saving for. But if you do that, if you can get in the habit of doing that early on, it will help you tremendously. It'll get you a way to start closing the gap between those players that are higher ops or just higher power in your ops range. As we just mentioned, you do want to save your speed ups for when there are the research or the station event, heroic events or leaderboards. That's a decent thing to save them for. The other times that you want to save that for specifically is when you're building a new ship or tearing it up. Nothing stinks worse in this game than sitting down to play it and then you realize that you have to wait to build a ship for like 5 days. 5 days is nothing once you get further on. Or has to wait 3 days to tear up a ship and you're like, wow, I have no way to increase this. I guess I'll just wait. That's an awful situation to be in. You want to make sure that when you, especially when you know you have a tier up or a build coming because you're planning ahead, you're going to want to make sure that you have the speed ups so that you can blow right through that and get right back to playing and you get your cool ship back and it feels really good. So make sure that you're saving speed ups for specifically your tier ups, your building, and then beyond that, if you have enough for your next tier up or build, then you can use those for your research or your station event single leaderboards. I'd say probably the last thing, there's a couple different pieces to this, but the big thing is to pick your path whenever you're coming up in the game. Especially you want to pick which factions you're going to duel. You want to leave one of them on the back burner until later, but eventually you'll get them all. So which factions you care about because of either your material that they're going to make you go get every day. So keep that in mind, that you do have a daily every day to go mine, whatever it is, depending on which faction it is. You should have 2 because you're good at dual faction. So make sure that you know which factions it is. That's a minor consideration. Major considerations are going to be the early game crews that you can get because of the rares and the epic that you can get from the pools, and the ships especially. Which ships you can get from those factions. You want to make sure that you have a roadmap really before you even start getting your faction reputation going on which way that you think you might want to go. Which ships are the coolest to you once you get to level 26, even though it's skip a lot of those, 28 especially, and 34. The 28 and 34 ships are going to define your play for this stage in the game. So if you can look even before you're deciding which faction to go with and figure out which ships at level 28 and at level 34 you actually care about, and then try to go for those 2 factions, your life will be much easier. In addition to that, picking your path, knowing which ships you're going to build at each stage of it, you're going to make sure that you are planning for your bottlenecks when they come up. Your materials are going to be one of your biggest bottlenecks, and they're going to happen pretty often while you're playing this game. Your uncommon crystal at whatever stage of the game you're in is almost always going to be a bottleneck. But you can also build a ship that you really have no business building, and it'll set you back for the time that you get to the ship that you should be building. So for instance, I went ahead, if you look here, I've got this North Star. My North Star is maxed. It's the max tier, max level. It is as high as you can get it. Tier 9 and max level. I spent a lot of time working on the leveling there and spent a lot of resources on this. That's cool. It's great to have a max level North Star. I was kind of using it as a warship a little bit whenever I started to push this that hard. And when the time came to build my Horizon especially, and I picked up a D3, which was a bad idea. Don't pick up a D3 until you're like level 34 and you can build it all the way up and scrap it. There's a lucrative thing you can do with that. Whatever. Don't worry about that for now. The Horizon is always going to be a priority for you as soon as you can build it. and it really messed me up to not be able to just go ahead and rush that horizon and get it up as far as I needed to. And then especially when I built that D3 and it soaked up even more of those crystals, ugh, that was awful. So make sure that you are planning through when your bottlenecks are going to occur, and that when you're building a ship, you're not trying to build 2 or more ships, especially that use the same materials. So like the Horizon's very hard to build if you're also working on a 𝗂𝗲 and also working on a 𝘂𝗵𝘁, because they're all using crystal. That's not going to work very well for you. And I went and spent a lot of my stuff building my 𝗂𝗶𝘁 around the time that I was working on this too, because I was like, oh, this is my ship. About the time that you hit the 𝗂𝗶𝘁, you can go ahead and look, okay, the 𝘂𝗲 is coming up, that one I'm probably going to build. And I would go ahead and say, 𝗂𝗶𝘁, just build it so that you can complete the quest, focus on whatever else you have. When you get to the point that you can build the 𝗂𝗲, go ahead and dump into the 𝗂𝗲. I wasn't building an Explorer, I didn't build one at 26, I'm not building one at 28, I probably won't build one until, I don't know, maybe 34 when I can try to get the Enterprise. So I'm going a long time without worrying about an Explorer, and it's really nice because I haven't built one in so long. I'm just swimming, comparatively speaking, in the gas whenever that happens. Now what I'm not swimming in is my ore, because I built a 𝘂𝗵𝘁 way further along than I should have, because the Boardus was around the corner for me, and I'm not swimming in the crystal either, because I'm working on 2 Horizons and a 𝗂𝗲, and I blew a lot of my crystals on this North Star and on my D3 class, which I should not have done. So learn from my mistakes, make sure you're picking your path. Rewatch this video if some of this seemed completely foreign to you, because by the time that you're at Ops 30, if you're not paying attention to all that, it's really gonna hurt. Like, the only reason I'm not hurting more at Ops 30 than I am right now is because this server is fairly new and I'm like 81st in power. So you should be way more in power than me, no matter what server you're on. If you're on an early server or a server that's been around more mature than mine, you want to make sure that you are the biggest fish in your little pond, your pond being your operations level. Make sure that you are getting everything that you can get out of that level, savor the flavor, and then when you're good and you're ready to go, that doesn't mean you have to get every building maxed out. For instance, I wouldn't worry about any of your C and beyond of these pumps, as they're called, your generators. They're kind of not really that useful. And the only thing I would use them for is if I got raided really hard and I needed to build back up, I would go ahead and maybe use them then, but even then you should have tokens to rebuild from. So pumps, don't worry about those. There's certain things that I wouldn't really worry about, but other than your pumps building wise, you probably want to go ahead and max everything out as much as you can before you go up. That's a good gate to keep yourself out. But also your research. Most of your research you want to have done at the level that you can get to until you get to Ops 30, and then it just explodes on whatever you can research. So make sure that you're getting your research and your buildings where they need to be, and in doing so you should also be working on your ships, because you're not just sitting there doing nothing, as well as your officers. So if you can do all that, you will have a much more successful career in this game than what I have had. Hopefully this helps you quite a bit. I appreciate you watching. Live long and prosper. See you next time.